On today's episode of A Few Good Minutes, I'm joined by BUSU External Affairs VP, Drew Ursacki. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Thanks for having me.
So for those of you who don't know, the External Affairs position is kind of a new job in BUSU. So why don't you tell our viewers what kind of External Affairs does?
So basically I am the kind of go-to guy for all of the external organizations. I work with our provincial organization USA, the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance. I work with the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations, which is CASA, which is our federal lobby group. And then I do a lot of just kind of external work with municipal organizations, counselors, everything that involves BUSU's activities that isn't internal to Brock, essentially.
So what have you been doing during the summer then? I know that you just got back from USA's strategy kind of conference thing.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
So that was our kind of big planning and priorities conference of the year. Myself and the rest of the steering committee and USA Home Office got together and we kind of set out our research and advocacy priorities, looked at kind of what kind of campaigns we want to do, what our goals are for lobbying politicians and working with Queen's Park. And it was pretty successful. And then the rest of the summer, I've attended a couple conferences. We had a similar conference to what USA's StratCon was with CASA. It was in Nova Scotia. Set out some priorities and goals and research objectives for the year. It was really beneficial. And then other than that, it's just been a lot of steering committee meetings, kind of getting together with the organizations and actually doing the groundwork to get the ball rolling. Next week, I'm going up to Toronto. We have a think tank for an accountability policy paper that we're writing for USA. So it's kind of just diving headfirst in right now.
So what are like USA specific lobbying priorities for this year?
A big focus is going to be teaching quality and kind of just general university accountability. So talking about strategic mandate agreements, the multi-year accountability agreements, kind of just really like accountability, oversight, and overview. And then we're also looking at a policy paper on kind of like youth employment. And then what's really exciting actually is next term for the spring, I'm one of two co-authors on the very first LGBTQ policy paper for USA, so I'm pretty excited for that.
Do you think that the money that we spend in those organizations is worth it? Like, do you think that BUSU gets a lot of value out of being a part of USA and CASA?
I do, yeah. I think if you look at the successes with USA in the last couple of years, USA was the ones that pioneered the 30% off Ontario tuition grant. We've done a lot of work in making OSAP more accessible to underrepresented student groups and to break down a lot of the accessibility barriers for students. There are some criticisms of USA and CASA, and I think that's natural of any organization. But I think the best way to really make sure that we are being effective with our money and that we are getting our money's worth is to work from the inside to improve that. I don't think every organization is perfect. I think there are some certain things, and I think when you're looking at CASA, especially a federal organization that has 22 membership schools from across the country, you know, what works for a school in British Columbia or Newfoundland isn't probably going to work for schools in Ontario. So it's kind of a give and take. But I think the best route to go is from the inside and kind of just work with those internal committees and work with the boards and say, you know, this is what we need to fix. And I think that's one of my goals this year. And I think hopefully going forward, we're going to get our, you know, we do get our money's worth right now, but I think it'll go even further.
And lastly, I have to ask you, being the first VPEA, you kind of set a precedent for, you know, those coming in the future. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave as the first VPEA?
I haven't really thought about that, and legacy is a pretty big word. I really just hope that I do a good job this year. My biggest goal is just making sure that I accomplish my platform points that students elected me for, and that at the end of the year, I can look back and say, yeah, I got some stuff done that made a good change for students.
All right, thanks a lot. This has been A Few Good Minutes with Drew Ursacki, BUSU's Vice President, External Affairs.